Hey guys, Firm here, and today I'm going to be testing the Exotic Rides W70 at max in multiplayer in Asphalt 9. I tested this car probably 2 years ago at this point at 2 stars, and after I 3-starred it, almost around that time probably, I never made another video about it, so here you go. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and enjoy the video. But before we get too much into the races, you guys will be happy to know that I have unlocked the SSC Tuatara. After spending about 6,000 tokens or so on the packs that have that chance of dropping the key, I did get the key. Currently it is 2 stars with I think 15 out of 48 blueprints or something to 3-star. I'm going to be trying to 3-star it if I can, because I think that will be a pretty good test against my 3-star Yesco. If they're at the same stars, it'll be a bit more fair test for me to test between them. Obviously, it won't be like as if they were maxed, and I know that neither car is nearly as good at lower stars as they are at max, but at least it will be something. So keep an eye out for a Tuatara video coming to you pretty soon. I might make one very soon about my 2-star one, and one a bit later once I get it to 3 stars. That's most likely what I'm going to do. So the Exotic Rides W70 is a pretty low-end B-class car. It goes 212 miles per hour at max. Now, I do not have any epics installed because I do not have any, and there's not really much point in buying them because this car is pretty much not useful anywhere anymore unless you are still going through the career. And this car is actually a very good beginner B-class car. It is decently fast, it has pretty good acceleration, nitro efficiency, and it's pretty fun to drive as well. I enjoyed coming back to this car after so long since I last drove it, and all the races in this video were recorded in Gold League, so I am facing a bunch of other B-class cars. Like in this race, we're facing an Apollo N, an SCG, a Corvette Grand Sport, and a bunch of other B-class cars that are, for the most part, faster than this one, but some of them are not as agile. And this is the car that, since it is fairly easy to drive, fairly reliable all around, and doesn't really have any physics issues, you don't really have to worry much about, just flipping on your side and wrecking or something dumb like that costing you the race. Do I think you could get to platinum in this car? It would be pretty difficult, but I can imagine that somebody might be able to, although I wouldn't really recommend trying. But for low-end gold racing, this is a pretty good car to use overall, and it definitely can pull out more wins than, say, the DB11, which I tested around the same time as I tested this car. I made a video about that one at 3 stars recently if you would like to check it out, and there is a little bit of an Easter egg on the thumbnail. I don't know how many people noticed that, but go check that out if you haven't seen it yet. So a Corvette Grand Sport is the car that is catching up to us, not too far behind at this point, but we do come in first ahead of him. That car goes about 2 miles per hour faster than the Exotic Rides. I think some people don't realize, or don't seem to, just how slow the Corvette actually is in terms of speed because of how easy it is to drive. It almost feels faster than it is, which is one reason why I think people keep using it. But when it really comes down to it, like, a lot of low-end B-class cars are just as fast as, or nearly at least, as the Corvette. And that means if you get ahead of them, like say I get ahead in this car and I think a Corvette just knocked me down, they're most likely not going to be able to catch up, at least not very quickly. And most of the time when I get knocked down in a season like this, if my car isn't just ridiculously slower than everybody else, which I'm not, because for example it is faster than the Pininfarinas, one of which I had just knocked down. So I got knocked down, I did a knockdown. Anyway, it is about 5 miles per hour faster than that car, and I knew that I would most likely be able to catch up to at least some people. The only reason why I leave, or the only situations where I leave, are if the cars are pretty much off the map and it's a little bit into the race and I know that I pretty much have no chance of catching up to them, even if one of them wrecks or something like that. Or if my car is just really slow and I know I'm not going to catch up because of that. There are some cases where I do leave before I get right to the end of the race, but those are kind of rare. A Corvette beat us there, but we still came in a pretty close second after getting knocked down. In this race, we were facing 4 Corvette Grand Sports, a Huracan, an F12 TDF, and a Pininfarina. So the Corvette C7R Grand Prix has begun. And I must say, the qualifying round is my least favorite qualifying round we have ever had. So this Corvette C7R at stock, and at max really too, is almost exactly like the Furai in terms of driving and overall performance. That means at 1 star, it drifts terribly and just is not very fun to drive. And Tunnel Jam is not a very good track for that kind of car, and that's what we got for the qualifying round. I actually didn't even qualify in the first one, and it's probably going to be pretty close in the second one, although I'm currently at 5th position with about 8 hours remaining as I'm recording this, so hopefully I'll be able to get in. I don't really feel like paying hundreds of tokens or whatever it would take for me to gain access to it, because I'm hoping that just like the Ford GT Mark II, I can win this car without spending any tokens on it. Although it'll be interesting to see if many people actually do spend tokens on this one, since it is going to be a high-end D-Class car, not a very low-end B-Class car like the Ford GT was. We'll have to see. I'll still try to win it at 1 star though. So we came in second here to this Grand Sport, but we did beat 3 other Grand Sports. You have to remember, this car is below 2600 rank, and most of the cars that I am facing are above 36, 37, 3800 rank. So basically 50% higher rank than I am at. I'm currently at 170 conditions in the Tuatara event. I know I'm behind a little bit, but what I find most annoying is the ones that you can only get 1 for every time you play, and they still take, what, 2 tickets to do. Like, after you complete the ones which give you the blueprints for the car, or if you use the Tuatara, the ones that give you the tokens and stuff, there seem to be ones that are just like, oh, get 10 knockdowns, say, for the Trion Nemesis. And I just find those to be a little bit tedious to go through, so I usually take my time. Although I will be going through this event as far as I can. I'm not going to leave it without having gone as far as I can, because I definitely will try to get as many blueprints for the Tuatara as I can. So, in this race, we're facing 5 Corvette Grand Sports, an F12 TDF, and a Pininfarina. The Grand Sports just don't stop spamming. Thankfully, we were able to pass him at this jump, and so going into the final straight, or rather final curves of this track, we get into first place. I'm always careful to use perfect nitro when going across those snow spots there, because one thing that I found is that a lot of people might not do that, and that's what slows them down a lot. And you just want to have nitro going into the cave section toward the end there as well, or else you might get bumped and lose a bunch of speed. Anyway, we beat 5 Corvette Grand Sports in that race, and now on to our final race, which is on Nile River against an F12 TDF, a Viper ACR, an Acura, an Apollo N, and just a better variety of cars than we had in the last race. So now it is time for my general review about this car. The Exotic Rides W70 is a low-end B-Class car, but it is one that will be useful for many beginners to the game. It's one of the easiest to drive low-end B-Class cars, and definitely one of the ones that most people will likely use the most before they get the Asterion. If they get this car before the Asterion, that is, because you can get that car in not too much time with the daily tasks, which, by the way, is a really great way to farm tokens if you haven't been doing that after getting the Asterion to max stars. Something I do is leave a car or two that I'm not planning to use very much unupgraded, so I can go in and do 1 upgrade and 1 import part on it every day to get 10 free tokens, which will help me to get those 15 free tokens from the daily tasks, and that's one way I'm able to get so many tokens as some people have asked me about. But overall, this car is easy to drive, has decent stats all around for the low end of its class, and it's just a very well-balanced and stable car, and one that you could definitely use in lower end Gold League to hopefully get a good bit of rating. We're catching up a little bit to this F12 TDF around here because he has pretty bad drifting, but we don't quite beat him. However, we still come in second place ahead of all those other cars. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you have enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt and other games content, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!